Hey guys, welcome to the part 1 video of this series on how to secure my Android phone. I am a cybersecurity architect building cybersecurity products for more than 15 years now and including Android for more than a decade. And a lot of people ask me these questions on whether my phone is safe, why is Android so insecure? And to add to that, our movies exaggerate a lot of problems with respect to what they can steal from an phone in general, specifically Android phones, right? We all have these questions. Can someone steal my data remotely? Can they take away my pictures? Can they take away my videos? Can they steal money from my bank account? What happens if I attend to that mysterious call from an unknown number? And all of these questions, right? I'm sure primarily a lot of these get exaggerated because of so many different social media and stuff, and even movies. And many times when people hand off a phone, when I look at people's phone, it's many times fairly very apparent that something is wrong. There is definitely some sort of adware, malware, or at least some sort of Trojan in there, right? So it becomes very evident sometimes, especially for us when we look at the phone. And a lot of times it's primarily because of how people take care of themselves over the internet with their phone, right? Because once you understand how these security things work with a little bit of discipline, there are a lot of problems that can be saved, and we don't have to worry about a lot of them. So if you had similar questions, tune into this whole series of videos because there's a lot of content here. So I'm going to be demystifying a lot of these things as well as providing you guidelines on what you should be doing to take care of your phone so that, with simple steps, you can avoid a lot of these attacks or exploits in general, right? So stay tuned. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe, and let's get started with the part 1 of this video. Okay. Did you know that phishing amounts to more than 80% of attacks in the security world? That's a lot, and that is pretty much the majority of attacks. If we can prevent these attacks, we have saved like 80% of problems, right? Now, if you don't know what phishing is very, very simple and very non-technical, which is what is surprising, but it's very, very effective. Um, because in phishing, what they do is they directly communicate with you. They send you emails, they call you, or they send you WhatsApp message or something, and then they communicate with you, and then they pretty much cheat or lure you into doing something, right? Which you otherwise would not do, or which otherwise you wouldn't reveal, right? Um, like they could send you a message saying you have won a lottery of this much of dollars or this much of rupees, and give me your bank details, we will do a transfer, right? This is luring, and this is one form of phishing. You would otherwise not give a stranger your bank account details, right? But in the interest of getting money for free, many people tend to do that, right? There are many such scams, you might have been aware, right? So these are sometimes very targeted attacks, but otherwise also it is just mere, a cheating in a form. And any form of protection, even secure and sophisticated protection, can go for a toss, because if you have the key and you give it to a attacker, then that is it, the purpose of the key is lost. And the key can be very secure, but if you hand it off to someone, then the whole purpose is lost, right? For example, your debit cards or credit cards have a CVV number, and then if someone calls you and tells you you have won some money and I'm going to transfer this money to your credit card and give me your card details and give me your CVV expiry, and you hand off everything to them, and you have given them everything they need to carry out a fund transfer attack or a fraud, right? So all the protection that is there to protect you, you shouldn't be revealing them. And phishing is how most of the times these information get revealed to the attackers, and that's how the fraud happens. The good news is, by being aware that 80% of the attacks happen by phishing, by just simply being aware of this and being disciplined by not doing such things, we can save a lot of problems, and you can save a lot of problems without having to have sophisticated technical software or anything like that. Many people think and talk as if Android is very insecure. Android is running on roughly 2 to 3 billion devices as of today. And it's a fair question as to why is Android inherently being secure, right? If it is so important, it's running on so many billions of devices, shouldn't that be very secure? In fact, Android is more secure than, say, Windows or Mac OS or any other desktop operating systems that you can think about, right? It's fair because Android is like little over a decade old and it was redesigned from scratch, and they have taken care of quite a bit of things. Android is fundamentally Linux, but there are a lot more security constructs that are put in place over Linux uh, to build Android. In most cases, like in the phishing case, we have to make sure that the user is, sort of disciplined and he's aware of what they are doing, so that they don't give away something, very important. Finally, the users are the masters on the device, and if the users are making wrong decisions, that's where a lot of problems get started, right? Otherwise, there is a fundamental protection in a lot of ways in Android. We will talk about them one by one in the future, but do not assume that Android is insecure. Android is reasonably secure. And of course, like every software, Android also could have bugs or security bugs, which get fixed in every subsequent releases. But otherwise, there is no fundamental problem as such in Android, as far as I can say. Okay, this section is interesting, and this is probably of most importance to most of us because what can be stolen, right? That's what is more important for us, and that's what we are trying to protect, and that's what we are worried about. So let's talk about them. So first thing, the phone itself. Of course, we can't protect the phone being stolen because it's the physical attack, right? You go on a bus and they steal it, they steal it. But what I want to talk about is what constructs exist in Android today that can help you probably even track your phone, for example, and how you can take care of uh, not losing valuable information if the phone gets stolen, etc. So we'll talk about that separately later. Stay tuned. Um, the data, which is one of the very important ones, right? Your pictures, your videos, your contacts, your say SMS messages, whatever that is, right? That's the prime portion of your data. Can they be stolen? Yes, they can be stolen, and that's one of the prime purposes when people try and install malware onto your devices. So we should be vigilant, and of course, this is not a myth. It can be stolen, of course, subject to certain situations. Now, what those situations are, what you should be doing to not make this happen, we are going to see in the subsequent videos. The privacy aspect of it, right? Not necessarily the data itself, but can someone listen to your audio remotely, spying, right? Can they look at you or your environment using your camera without you being aware of it? Yes, even that is possible. So even that is possible in certain cases. So we need to be aware, and we need to be able to protect ourselves against that. This is also another important motive. And the next one is the CPU itself. Well, I'm not sure. Maybe some of you may not be aware of this, but even this can be stolen. When I say CPU, it's not the processor itself, but the processing power, right? They can use your phone to do some computations for them remotely. And then what they're interested in is just the processing power. Why would they do that? But that's because if they have, like, say, thousands and millions of devices doing computation for them, uh, they can achieve some things, right? Depending on what their application is. For example, say Bitcoin mining or any other cryptocurrency mining. There could be various different applications. Computing power is a resource, and people might want to steal it. This is one less intrusive, or as in less bothering resource, I would say, because you really have not lost much other than your battery power. So probably okay, but you should try and avoid it either way. The last one is the money, right? Can they steal my money? Yes, they can, but it's not as bad as how some movies showcase or some people showcase. So we will talk in detail about how money can be probably stolen, but it's not as simple as stealing data or as simple as listening on audio. Money stealing is fairly complicated than that, and it is probably not going to easily happen without you giving in some form. So we will talk about, I think, each of these items separately and then talk about them in detail, right? So if you have not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe so that you can get notified for the subsequent videos on each of these topics. And if you're interested on anything else, if you have any other questions with respect to can this be stolen or can this not be stolen, anything like that, please feel free to comment below in the video, and I can respond back in the next video. Okay, now the most important part of this video, the 5 most important tips that I want to give you guys in the first video of this series. Because A lot of these problems can be addressed by taking care of these basic important tips first. Don't forget to install software updates from your manufacturer regularly. What I mean by software updates, as in the actual whole Android update itself, but it comes typically from your manufacturer, not directly from Google, right? Your Samsung or LG or the manufacturer of your phone, they give you the software updates. You will typically get that available in your phone itself whenever there is software update available. So always keep updating it so that, like I mentioned, if there are any software bugs, software security bugs, they will be fixed in the subsequent software updates. That keeps you safe in general. This is a very important one, the second one. Do not ever install any application from outside Google Play. Google Play is the Play Store, right, where the applications are hosted. Google does a lot of work. So there is this program called Google Play Protect, which investigates what the applications are, what they are doing, and then figures out a lot of things about the application and keeps malicious applications away, right? So there's a lot of protection that Google Play is already providing by ensuring the Android users get the safest apps possible. Sometimes even they slip up, but then eventually they get removed as well. However, if you're installing applications from unknown sources or any application that gets pushed to your device via WhatsApp and then they ask you to install it, things like that, please never do that. And that's definitely a source of concern, and that's definitely are likely to have malware or something of that sort, because if they have genuine content they can as well put it in Google Play anyway. If someone is distributing applications outside of Google Play, they have a reason why they think Google Play is going to reject it, right? Which is not a right thing to do anyway. So this is a very, very important thing, and everybody should follow this. And then even from Google Play, do not install suspicious or lucrative apps, right? In many cases, antivirus apps are the apps which actually carry the malware, because people tend to install antivirus for their phone, and then that's the easiest way for them to ship something, right? And then most people will get it installed. The other most common ways, malicious stuff or adware get pushed to the phones or games. These are very common and most popular applications that get installed. So go through the reviews and go understand the number of people who have downloaded and the rating and all of that stuff. And unless you know for sure, do not go and install something from Google Play if it looks suspicious, right? If they are saying it's a lottery or anything like that, um, stay away from it. I would say if you follow these important steps and then have some discipline in mind, I don't think you need an antivirus for your phone. So stay away from such things, because typically those applications have a lot of permissions on your device and they can do a lot more than what you think they are doing. Which brings us to our fourth point about permissions itself. Do not grant more permissions than what an application needs. So, right. So like I mentioned, typically some applications like antivirus, they can say they will need a lot of permissions, which may look legitimate, but you can't control how they use those permissions, right? They may have permissions to read your photos or something for scanning, but then they could also export it out without you knowing about it. So be very careful about what permissions you grant. This is the crux of Android security model. So grant only the right permissions to the right app, right? For example, if there is a game that you downloaded and that game is asking for a camera permission, you might have to really think, why does this game really needs a camera permission? Do not give that. In the recent versions of Android, anyway, there is a lot of granularity, especially for these reasons, that users can disable specific permissions for an applications. Earlier in Android, you either accept everything or deny everything. So it was very much, uh, it was very much difficult for people to use some applications. But these days, it is very, very handy. It's very smart. So you can go and disable camera permission for applications and use the applications otherwise, right? So which is very, very handy. In fact, with the Android 11, they're coming up with this feature wherein you can give the permission only for a single launch of an application, and then the permission gets revoked again, which is, I think, very, very handy. It's going to be very handy because many times you may use the app only for once, and then you may want to just give the permission once. And what that means is when you quit that application, then the application does not have permission for camera anymore, for example. So you don't have to worry of that application running in the background and taking pictures of you, right? So Android model, security model is also continuously evolving. At the same time, just being aware of some of these things I think that helps us to prevent a lot of possible attacks or problems on the phone. The last one is do not install unofficial firmware or root your phone. If you do not understand what this means, that is perfect. That means you will not do this anyway. But if you know what this means, please do not do it. These are unofficial software, specifically like a firmware has complete permission on your phone, and you will have to unlock your bootloader to install it. You are pretty much breaking the security perimeters and then allowing someone else take over, right? So this is all very, very risky thing to do, and do it at your own risk. And um, if you're worried about security or the privacy of your phone and data, I would really, really suggest against it, because at that point, you really don't have any control over what is running on your phone, but they have access to everything. So those are the 5 important tips I want to give you guys, and then talk about a lot more things in the subsequent videos. Feel free if you have any thoughts or comments on these content, and if you have more questions on Android and security, feel free to post a comment, and I will get back to you guys in the next video. Thank you.